I'm not in our usual place, and we'll see. So, in case I disappear suddenly, you'll know why. All right. Anyway, hope for the best. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, welcome everyone to our Saturday Sanga. This is the 18th of September, 2021, and it's 1:19 in the afternoon by our watch. And I'm in a place, I'm just down the road from a place called, what's it called? Ustka. Yeah, on the seaside. And we are not in the sea, we are by the sea. Just 1.5 kilometers, 1.7 kilometers from the sea. And so we can continue. Today we can celebrate, we are celebrating the appearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kedarnath Dat Bhaktivinoda. Yeah. Very special Acharya. Historically very significant for the modern time, basically bringing Gaudiya Vaishnavism into the modern age. I think there's a nice set of 3 acharyas. We have Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, And Srila Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, history may show that these three made a special mark in turning Vaishnavism to the modern world. And we are singing a song from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is one of the ways that he brought Vaishnavism to the modern world, even in Bengal, in Bengali language. And today we have lots of musical instruments in the form of our voices. And we have three voices here today on site. And we have, in addition to myself, we have Madai Jivan Nitai, and we have Bhakta Anukul, who are our intrepid assistants. And we are singing Bhaktivinoda Thakur's 12th song of Upadesa from his song collection Kalyana Kalpataru, the wish-fulfilling tree of auspiciousness. And he's continuing to address his mind. Nare, dhana-mada, Nitanta, Asar, jana bitta, jata, deher, anugata, deho, gele, sakala, char. Oh, my dear mind, you are greatly intoxicated by your wealth and possessions. But just let me tell you that this is completely useless. Asar means useless. When this body is gone, deher, anugata, your wealth, followers, property, as well as everything else that depends on this body. Dana, jana, bitta. Dana means wealth. Bitta can mean property, I guess. Jata, whatever. Deher, anugata, all of that which comes with the body. Deho, gele, when the body goes. Sakala, char. This will all be good for nothing. And then bidyar. So, my dear mind, don't. We can see this as all these songs as teaching the mind humility, because pride, the opposite of humility, is coming from thinking oneself to be something and to be an owner of something. Last week the song was about relying on the body itself as a source of pride. And we may remember Bhaktivinoda said that when the body goes, then what's going to happen? Your relatives will take you to the cremation ground. They'll burn your body, and then what will they do? They'll turn around and go back home. And that'll be it. Finished. So here he's saying, because someone might think, well, okay, nothing to be proud of my body, but what about my wealth? What about my family? What about this and that? Here he's saying, nope. So verse 2, bidyar, jateka, cesta, cikitsaka, upadesta, keho, deho, rakhibare, nare, ajapa, hoile, shesha, deha-matra, avashesha jiva nahi raken adere. Despite all the vast medical knowledge, bidyar, and dexterous efforts of the advising physician. I think that would be the vidyar, vaidya. The chesta, the efforts, cikitsaka. Cikitsaka, yeah, with the ka, that would be the physician. His advising upadesta. So the cikitsaka upadesta. Despite all that, one will never be able to keep this temporary body. Keho, deho, rakhibare, nare. So rakhibare, maintaining or protecting the body, deha. Nare, it will not happen. When the life airs expire, ajapa hoile shesha, when there's a shesha, an ending of ajapa, I guess means breathing. When the life airs expire, the only thing which will be left behind is the gross body. Deha-matra avashesha. Matra means only the body. Avashesha will remain. Jiva nahi taken adere, and for the soul, cannot remain trapped within such a dead container for very long. Jiva nahi taken. Taken means remaining, staying. Adhere. Dane jodi pran ditta. Dani raja na marita. Dharmer hoito ravana. If wealth had the power to prolong life, dane jodi, so this is conditional, if wealth, prana dita, would give life, then a rich king would never have to die. Dani raja na marita. Marito. Dani, so dana means wealth. Dani is a person with wealth, a wealthy person. So a wealthy raja, na marito, would not die. Dharmer hoito Ravana. The demon named Ravana also thought that he possessed deathlessness until he was finally killed by Lord Rama. Dane nahi rake deho gele nahe keho ateva ki koribe dana. Dharamir hoito Ravana. Okay. Thus we see that no one to date has ever been able to protect and keep his body with any amount of money. For no one can prevent his body from dying. Deho gele nahe keho. So dane, in wealth, nahi rake, is not keeping deha, the body. Deha gele, the body, when the body goes, nahe keho. Keho, I thought it's a question word. How? In any case, ataeva ki kori vedan. Therefore, ataeva, what is the use of your riches? Ki kori vedan. Literally, what will you do with wealth. And finally, Jodi take bahudan niche hobe akinshan Vaishnava koro upokar. Dear mind, if you have any excess wealth, bahudan, Jodi take, if remains, bahu, much wealth, then just make yourself lowly, nije hoibe, akinshana, lowly and humble. Make yourself as if possessing nothing, and use that wealth to do something beneficial. Vaishnava koro upakar, for the service of the Vaishnavas. Do some upakar. Upakar, I believe, means gift. So do giving of the Vaishnavas. Vaishnava koro upakar. Jibe doya anukan, because the ksha in Bengali is pronounced instead of k, ka, sha, it's like double ka. Anukan. Radha-krsna-aradhana. Koro shoda hoje shoda char. Constantly showing compassion to all souls. Worship Radha Krishna and always make your standard of behavior clean, saintly, and virtuous. So jibe doya anukshan, anukshan at every moment, kshana means moment, anu following, so ongoing, moment by moment. Jibe doya, doya, compassion, mercy to the jivas. Radha-krsna-aradhana, worshipping Radha Krishna. Koro shada hoje sadachar. Do sadachar, be. Sometimes we translate sadachar as Vaishnava etiquette. It's sat, which means true or real or right or proper. And achar means behavior. So do proper behavior. When? Sada, always. Koro sada hoye. Hoye. Be doing always sadachar, something like that. So we get the formula for what to do in the last part of the song. Okay, let's see how we're going to do this now with our all our instruments. We could play my electronic tempura. That's an idea. Let's see if we can do that. And that would be something different. I also have, no, that's not. I have GarageBand. Okay, here we go. iTabla Pro, how's that? So, how do we play it? Master. Oh, yeah. Okay. Tempura one, and we can even have two tempuras. No, one is enough. We could have tabla. Let's see what happens with tabla. Whoops. That's too fast. How do we make it slow? Controls. Make it slower. Tempo. Manane. Nare. Okay. Now the only problem is it's too high pitch. But we can change that. How do we change it? Master. I don't know how to change the pitch. There's a way to do it. Style. Let's presets or more. Oh, this takes too long to figure out. It was something very simple. But mixer. Okay, that's the lowest, I think. Manare. Let's see if this works. We're following this in the footsteps of Satchidananda Swami. He always has his tempura gizmo. He has this big box. It's like this big. We have just mobile phone style. Okay, let's see. Manare dhana-mada Nitanta Asar. That's very low, isn't it? Manare dhana-mada Nitanta Asar. Dana jana bitta jata deher anugata. That's too slow. Sorry. We'll get it right. This is the age of machines, digital machines. Yeah, this might work better. Dana jana bitta jata deher anugata. Dana jana bitta jata deher anugata. Deho gele char. Deho gele sakala char. Bidyar jateka cesta cikitsaka upadesta. Bidyar jateka cesta cikitsaka upadesta. Keho deho rakhibare nare. Keho deho rakhibare nare. ajapa hoile shesha deha-matra avashesha ajapa hoile shesha deha-matra avashesha jivanahi thakena adhere jivanahi thakena adhere dane jodi pranadita dhani raja namarita dane jati prana dhani raja namarita dharma hoite ravana dharma hoite ravana dane nahi rakhe deho deho gele nahe keho dane nahi rakhe deho deho gele nahe keho ataiba ki koribe dana ataiba ki koribe dana যদি থাকে বাহুডানা নিজে হবে আকিঞ্চনা থাকে ডানা নিজে হবে আকিঞ্চনা বৈষ্ণবের করো উপকার Vaishnava Koro Upaka Jibe Doya Anukana radha-krsna-aradhana Jibe Doya Anukana radha-krsna-aradhana Koro sada hoje sada char Koro sada hoje sada char Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaura Haribo Gaura Haribo Haribo, Haribo, Gora Haribo. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai jai. Yeah. Okay, we're off to a roaring start. Thank you again all for joining. And again, for those who have come, today is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance day celebration. And tomorrow is the disappearance of Srila Haridas Thakur, Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur. And if I understood what I heard today, Monday is the day Srila Prabhupada took sannyas. Yeah. So lots of special days for us. There's always something to celebrate in Krishna consciousness. Something to celebrate or something to observe. I don't like to call departure days, disappearance days, celebrations, but more like observances. Yeah. If you want to go back to your notes. So, Hare Krishna, anyone have anything to show and or tell? Usually there's some telling that goes with showing, but there could also be telling without showing. Or we can say that telling is a kind of showing. From any of you, anywhere in the three worlds. We have lots of devotees today. Oh, I just noticed Bhaktin Ella is with us. Blues Ella.
Это мило.
Huh?
Куда мне надо собраться?
Somebody else is speaking. Okay. Okay. And Narayani is with us all the way from Brazil. Yeah. And Ananda Leela and Gorak Chandra also from Brazil. I like how they say, in Brazil, they say Brazil, which sounds very Polish. It's like L in Polish, you have the L with a crooked line through it. It makes the U sound. So maybe there's some connection between Brazil and Poland. Some ancient connection. Okay. All right. Well, let me ask this. Did anyone do some of the reading that I suggest? Oh, Darya Chandrika, you wanted to say something?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I want to share something because I was so happy that on a day of appearance day of Srimati Radharani, I was listening some lectures on YouTube. And somehow, usually I try to find some lectures also from devotees from Chopati because they have so many stories. I don't know from where they get it, but they are so amazing, so nice. So I was listening one, I never heard about him, one brahmachari devotee. And it was a lecture about, of course, Srimati Radharani. And then in the middle of the lecture, he said that once you, Guru Maharaj, you were there with Radhanath Swami, and you asked a question to His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and I was like, "What?" And you were a deity minister. You did that service at that time yet, And you ask Maharaj a question like how it is that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami established the deities of Krishna and didn't establish the deities of Srimati Radharani. How is it? So that was your question. And then Maharaj said so beautifully that why is this happening is because that our great acharyas see Krishna. I mean, whenever they see Krishna, they see Srimati Radharani within his heart. So wherever Krishna is, Radharani is always in the core of his heart. And then it was so beautiful. And then later on, the same devotee was saying that how to understand, how to understand Srimati Radharani, and he explains in a way that Krishna is literally form of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's Krishna doesn't, Krishna is a literary form of Srimad Bhagavatam. And if Krishna is a form of Srimad Bhagavatam, so there's also a heart, right? And like he says that that Radharani is always within the heart of Krishna. So what Rupa Goswami did, he took out Srimati Radharani out of the form of Krishna's literary form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he took it out, Srimati Radharani, and presented to us as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So if you really want to understand Srimati Radharani, she is in that book. So this is the heart of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I don't know, somehow I was so inspired and I was so happy to hear. And I don't know, I forgot to look at what year was that. So, but yeah, what I got out of this was really such a beautiful meditation. And whenever now I will take Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu book in my head, I will know that this is heart of Srimati Radharani.
Very nice, yeah. Speaking of deities, Radha deities, or not present Radha deities. This was something I wondered about with the deity of Radha-Raman in Vrindavan, and that they have the deity Radha-Raman, and then next to him is what they call Gaddi Seva. And Gaddi can mean a seat, like an asana. And one of the Goswamis, one of the priests, explained to me that there's a small golden yantra, a Radha yantra, next to Radha-Raman. And what you see, you don't see that yantra because it's covered, and it's covered with a cloth which is wrapped sort of like, you could say, like a sari. And then on top of that sort of sari, they put a crown. So the idea is that this yantra is the murti, or is the presence of Radharani. And they further explained that I think more than 120 or more years ago, some devotee of the Radha-Raman community, one of the followers, one of the disciples of one of the Goswamis, brought a Radha deity to give to the temple, to be there with Radha-Raman. So they installed Radharani there, and for some time they were worshiping. He didn't tell me for how long, but then the priest, I guess he was, one of the more prominent priests, I believe. forgetting the name now, but had a dream, and in the dream, Radharaman came to him and said, you know, actually, there's no need for this Radha deity because Radha is already with me. We're already together. And so from that dream, they took it seriously and they removed the Radharani deity. And that deity is now in some other temple, not in Vrindavan, not in Braj, I think. In one of the, there are some sort of branch temples of the Radharaman temple in different parts of North India, they explained. So in one of those temples. Yeah, and they also understand Radharaman, because he has combined Radha and Krishna, he is also Lord Chaitanya. Yeah. Nice, okay. Speaking of Radharani, who took up my suggestion? Nowadays, we don't make orders, we just make suggestions. This is modern life. To read chapter 4 of Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. Dira Lalita, okay, very good. No one else. Oh, yes. Gauranataraj has done very good. Okay. And maybe some others that I don't see here. Well, for those of you who didn't, 50% of your life is wasted. Because in chapter 4, this is where Krishnadas Kaviraj explains why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears. He's explaining in the previous chapter, but in this chapter, he's explaining in particular his internal purpose. And so I thought we could say a couple of things about this, but before that, let's see if either of you who did read something have some comments. Dira Lalita or Nataraj, anything you want to, anything that especially struck you from these verses. Quiet. Everyone's very shanti today. Okay. Well, that's all right. So let's go to this chapter. Now let's see if we can do some...
Hare Krishna, here is Kavichandra that's speaking.
Acha.
Yeah, can I say something?
Please.
I was not reading the whole chapter, but I remember one thing. I just opened this Chaitanya Charitamrita because the very first verse is very nice. In relation to Vaishnava Hermeneutics.
Uh-huh.
It's this one. Chapter. Okay, I have in Polish, but I'll try to translate. So it's a Sanskrit text that says, Shri Chaitanya prasadana tatrupasya vinirnayam balopi kurute shastram drishtva vraja vilasinaha. So by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even stupid child can foolish child can totally described according to scriptures the true nature of Lord Krishna, who is subject of pleasure of Vraja Lila. Yeah, something like this. I don't know how this goes in English, but it says that. Yeah,
I have it here.
Oh, can you read?
I'll read it in English. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Vraja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures.
Yeah, so that's something I thought it's exactly it's essence of Vaishnava Hermeneutics here. It's
like, very good. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's all what I like to say.
Yeah, to understand Shastra or to understand Krishna and be able to describe him is by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose grace then one can present according to Shastra. So that's very good. That's what hermeneutics is. Thank you, yes. Dear Lalita, you wanted to say something.
Yes, good Maharaj. Hare Krishna. I wouldn't dare to sort of talk about this fourth chapter, but I have a question. I don't know if I've understood it properly. That the actual fourth chapter is the commentary of the verse number 6 from Adivela chapter 1. Or
yes.
5th and 6th together.
Oh, actually, yeah, it's kind of 5th and 6th together, it seems, but explicitly, it's explaining the 5th. The 5th verse, and this is the whole structure of the first several chapters of the Adi Lila. There are 14 verses in the very beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and each one of these Krishnadas Kaviraj expands on through the next several chapters, is what he's doing. He's giving the purport, as he said. Yes. Good
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that I've read it the day before Radhastami, and then Mother Vishaka, your dear god sister, she was giving class on Radhastami at the Bhaktivinoda Manor. So I've got to listen to it online, and she actually used the whole fourth chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita and actually gave class on that. And thank you so much. So I could actually follow her class with much more attention than if I wouldn't have read it.
Yeah, that's nice. We got some messages that some of you have started, some of you have read it, and some of you have read half of it, and some of you are intending to read it. Yeah, so all these are good. but let's look at just a little of it, because in the beginning, because I want to give a couple of points about how Krishnadas Kaviraj is, how he's organizing things, so to say. And it has to do with our subject of hermeneutics as well. Okay, share screen. Let's see what happens. Yeah, share. Okay. I suppose you can see now. Everyone can see, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So we heard the first verse, and then we get some verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And then he says, I have described the meaning of the fourth verse. So that's what he did in the previous chapter. Fourth verse means the fourth verse of the very first chapter. And now he says, now hear from me about the fifth verse. And I have to maybe look more carefully, but it didn't seem that he is at least explicitly explaining the sixth verse in this chapter, but rather he's going right on to the seventh verse in the next chapter. And what struck me then is, if you go back to chapter 1 and look at verse number 6, there's not even a purport there. Prabhupada is not even giving a purport. So I thought about that, okay, the purport to that verse is some chapters in Antyalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira is absorbed, deeply absorbed in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Okay, so he announces, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to elaborate now on this fifth verse. But he doesn't do that right away. First, he wants to give some background, some context. And the context is basically that the Lord has different purposes when he comes. And roughly speaking, we can say there's an external and an internal purpose. Satya e hetu kintu eho bahiranga aro eka hetu shuno ache antaranga. Although this is true, what is true? That the Lord comes to bring. Suddenly I'm not hearing. What happened? Hare Krishna, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Haribol. Just turned off by itself, or what? Krishna, Krishna, there. Okay, now it's working again. Yeah, we're okay. Strange, huh? There are some invisible beings influencing us here. Or maybe it's a conspiracy. So he says, yes, one of my purposes is to propagate the chanting of the holy name and spread love of God. But then he says, that's my external reason. There's an internal reason. And then he's tying back in verse number 7. The scriptures proclaim Purve Jena Prithivir Bhare Horibare Krishna Avatirna Hoila Shastrete Prachare. The scriptures proclaim that Lord Krishna previously descended to take away the burden of the earth. And of course, that's very much there in the Bhagavatam. But then he kind of says the opposite in the next verse. Oops. Maybe I can move this. Yeah. No. Yes. Okay. To take away this burden, however, is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What? I thought it just said that it is. Swayam Bhagavanir Karma Nahe Bharaharana. Now, this is not the work of Swayam Bhagavan. Rather, Stiti Karta Vishnu Koren Jagat Palana. It's Lord Vishnu who does this work. Okay. And again, he's making context. He's giving the bigger context, how all of this leading up to why the Lord appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the time to lift the burden of the world mixed with the time for Lord Krishna's incarnation. And this, there's quite some discussion of how it's significant that Krishna appears when he appears. That's in Tattva Sandarbha. Anyway, Kintu Krishna Jai Hoy Avatar Kal Bhara Horana Kal Tate Hoila Mishal. Mishala means mixture. So now two purposes are going to happen at once. Then someone may say, okay, so if Krishna appears, then that means Vishnu doesn't appear. So if there's going to be two purposes and Krishna only does one of them, how is that going to work? So then he explains, Purna Bhagavan Avatare Jai Kale Ar Shab Avatar. Shab Avatar, all the avatars, Tante Ashi Mile. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, all other incarnations of the Lord meet together within him. Okay. Then he gives some details. Narayana, Chaturvyuha, Matsya Adi, Avatar, Juga, Manvantara, Avatar, Jota Ache Ar, Shabe Ashi, Krishna Ange, Hoy Avatirna, Aiche Avatare, Krishna Bhagavan Purna. He's kind of explaining in more detail what it means to say Purna Bhagavan, the complete personality of Godhead. And there's discussion of that in Tattva Sandarbha as well. It's considered very important to understand what is meant by Bhagavan. Jiva Goswami puts a lot of emphasis on that. Therefore, Ataeva Vishnu Takon Krishna Sharire Vishnu Dare Kore Krishna Ashur Shanghare. At that time, therefore, Lord Vishnu is present in the body of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna kills the demons through him. Okay, so that function is explained because the Lord appears in his full form, including Vishnu. Vishnu takes care of the demons. And then Anushanga Karma, secondary work. This is Anushanga. This is not his primary work. ashur maran, je lagi avatar kahi se mula karana. Now he's going to speak about the mula karana, the main reason. Mula means root, can also mean main reason. And here it comes. Now it starts to get interesting. Prema rosha nirjas korite ashadana. Raga marga bhakti loke korite pracharana. Rashika shekar Krishna parama karuna. E dui hetu hoite ichar udgama. The Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. The Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellows of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction, raga marga. Thus, he is known as supremely jubilant and as the most merciful of all. So raga marga, marga means path. And raga, of course, means attachment. It can mean strong emotion. And in the word for word, Prabhupada says the path of spontaneous attraction. He often uses that word spontaneous. But we should perhaps also mention in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's considerable discussion about Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and then there's also the notion of raganuga sadhana bhakti. And this is sometimes confusing for devotees. Raganuga is sadhana? Yes, it is sadhana. It is a practice. And in that practice, there are also specific procedures. And those procedures overlap very much with Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. In fact, much of what's in Vaidhi sadhana is continued in raganuga sadhana. But the mood is different. The mood is, I do it because I want to please the Lord. I want to please the Vaishnavas, rather than I do it because it's a duty. Now, Prabhupada explains some of that here. I won't detain. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj, dare I say, imagines what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thinking, or what Krishna is thinking in Goloka, Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. All the universe is filled with a conception of my majesty, but love weakened by that sense of majesty does not satisfy me. So he's now giving his further reasons why he wants to appear. He wants to experience himself that spontaneous love, because that is what is really satisfying. Okay, now here we start to come to a point I wanted to make. So then Krishnadas gives a Bengali verse, Amake ta jj bhakta bhaje bhave, taro sheshe bhave bhaji e more shobhave. In whatever transcendental mellow my devotee worships me, I reciprocate with him. That is my natural behavior. I noted one line in the last end of this purport that struck me. Prabhupada says, this devotional service, this spontaneous devotion, pure devotion, is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection. These are, it's a tall order, we may say, in this material world. Okay, now we get a familiar verse from Bhagavad Gita, and this is where I wanted to just point out, maybe it's obvious, but very often this is what Krishnadas is doing. He'll do it either by giving a verse in Bengali and then a Sanskrit verse to confirm what he just said in Bengali, or the other way around. He'll give the Sanskrit verse and then he'll give Bengali translation, in effect, of the Sanskrit verse, or more than one verse. It may be several. And that's, of course, what he's doing. This whole chapter is an expansion of the Sanskrit verse, verse number 5 in the first chapter. But here, he's just giving a sort of preliminary reference. And the point I want to make is that he is supporting what he's saying from a shastra which would be taken as more broadly authoritative. Bhagavad Gita, everyone accepts Bhagavad Gita. In the wider, at least in the Vaishnava world, everyone accepts Bhagavad Gita. So he's saying that he's confirming what Krishna is saying in Bengali, so to say, with a statement from Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is generally considered a more authoritative language for Shastra. And then he's elaborating different examples. He says, if one cherishes pure loving devotion to me, thinking of me as son, friend, or beloved, regarding himself as great, and considering me his equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. Now that's something one would not automatically understand from the Sanskrit verse. Yeyatamang prapadyante tang stataiva. I reciprocate, basically. As they approach me, I respond. But yeah, one may not think that because Krishna says that this would be the case, that one could have a relationship with Krishna as like a parent or like a friend, and Krishna would reciprocate with that and even put himself in a subordinate position. That's not apparent from the verse. Okay, and then he goes on with some authoritative reference, and this is going to be from the Bhagavatam. Mahi bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate dishtya yat asin matsneho bhavatinam mat apanaha. Devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives their eternal life. O my dear damsels of Raja, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have obtained my favor. Now, aside from what Krishna is saying in this verse, let's take note of where is this verse, and we can see this in the purport, and this is one of the advantages of the Veda base in English. So in the purport, we have the reference where this is quoted from. And we can click it. And there we go, right to it. And then we immediately find out this is Krishna and Balaram. This is within the chapter, Krishna and Balaram meet the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Where are they meeting? They're meeting in Kurukshetra. And so what is happening here is that Krishna is meeting the gopis, and he's come from Dwarka, they've come from Braja, they're meeting, and there's all kinds of intense emotions being felt by the Brajbasis especially. And Krishna is speaking to them, wanting to pacify them, but in a sense not being very successful, because he's speaking sort of high philosophy instead of the feelings of devotion that they want to hear. But here he admits, by your good fortune, you have developed special loving attitude toward me. And that's very nice. And he goes on, my dear ladies, I'm the beginning and end of all created beings and exist both within and without them, just as the elements, ether, water, air, earth, air, and fire are the beginning and end of all material objects and exist both within and without them. And he goes on like this, sort of being philosophical, which is not really what the gopis want to hear. But here my point is just that we can sometimes be alert. Let's see if I can go back now. Which one of these works? I don't know. Yeah, that worked. It can be very interesting to go to the reference, the original reference that Krishnadas Kaviraj, or the verse that he's giving us. What is the origin of that? What is the context of that? And in that way, it becomes, it becomes part of the process of, it can become part of the process of hermeneutics, of understanding the meaning. In this particular case, though, we have two contexts. We have the Chaitanya Charitamrita context, and we have the Bhagavatam contexts. So it can get a little complicated. And then I wanted to go to verse 45. Let's see. See if, whoa, going too fast, stop. Okay, 45. Yato taramaso svadha visheshola samayi abhi ratir vasanaya svadvi bhasate kapi kasyachit. Increasing love is experienced in various tastes, one above another, but that love which has the highest taste in the gradual succession of desire manifests itself in the form of conjugal love. So we're getting some kind of, in a sense, like definition here, and also a brief explanation of the hierarchy of the rasas. And this is all leading up to introducing Srimati Radharani. The only point I wanted to make is that this is a verse that Krishnadas is quoting from Srila Rupa Goswami. So historically, we know Rupa Goswami wrote Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and completed it several years before Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote his Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Krishnadas is drawing on the teachings of Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis, he quotes also, but especially Rupa Goswami, because one thing he's doing in Chaitanya Charitamrita is he's bringing together the kind of essence of the Goswami's teachings, and he's mixing it all up together with the story of Lord Chaitanya's life. And this is what makes it Amrita, Chaitanya Charita Amrita. It's kind of the nectar of the nectar. And the Goswamis, like Rupa Goswami and the others, they are drawing especially from the Srimad Bhagavatam. They're elaborating the Bhagavatam and giving commentary on the Bhagavatam. Okay, a little further. Yes, verse number 48. Yeah, before that he talks about Parakya Bhava, Swakya Bhava, and he says Parakya Bhava is found nowhere but in Raja. Okay, and then Raja Vadu Ganer E Bhava Niravadi Tara Madhye Shri Radhai Bhaver Avadi. This mood is unbounded in the damsels of Raja, but among them it finds its perfection in Sri Radha. So this is the first mention, at least in this chapter. Maybe it's the first mention explicit of Radha, except in the introductory verses of chapter 1. The whole point being to position Radha. Why is Radha so important? This mood is unbounded. It is near Avadi amongst all the queens of Braja. They're called Vadu, which can mean wife. And Avadi, Radha's bhava is Avadi. It's at the highest limit. And then finally in verse 55, we get to the Mula verse. There's further explanations, all leading up to preparing us for this verse. And this is a repetition of verse number 5 in Adi Lila chapter 1, verse number 5. Radha-Krishna pranaya vikritir ladini shaktirasmat ekatmana vapi bhuvi pura deha-vedam gatau chaitanyakyam prakadamaduna tatvayang chaikyamaptam radha bhava duti suvalitam naomi Krishna swarupam. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now, these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. I'm not sure. This may be also a verse from sort of Damodar Goswami. I believe it may be. So this, you could say, this is verse 55. It took 54 verses to get to the first verse that Krishnadas wants to explain. And now for the rest of the chapter, he's going to explain this verse. And explanation is for what purpose? It's to understand meaning. And understanding meaning, this is what hermeneutics is about. Okay, now I'm looking at your comments. And oh, so many things. Chitrakarni is asking why Chandravali is existing. What's her function? Chandravali is, you can say, existing to intensify the drama of Krishna's Madhurya Leela, because he sometimes visits Chandravali, and then Radharani finds out and she becomes angry. And then Krishna has to, and this way Radharani displays mana, or lover's anger. And this makes big trouble for Krishna. And he has to submit himself to Radharani in order to again win her favor. So this is going on, and Chandravali is helping in this purpose. That's putting it briefly. Yes, she's creating tension. Transcendental tension, we may say. Is she also Srimati Radharani? Well, from a perspective of tattva, we may say she's an expansion of Radharani, because Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti San Mohini Para. Sarva Lakshmi Mai, she is all of the Lakshmis. So that's from the perspective of tattva, but in Krishna's Vraja Madhurya Leela, tattva takes a back seat. That's the whole point of Vraja Leela, is to put tattva way, way back in the back, so that it doesn't disturb the Leela. And Sita Sundari is asking, please speak about the importance of sub-religious principles like honesty, moral behavior, faithfulness, and how we can implement them in our own lives, and also in ISKCON at large. Quoting my Guru Maharaj, that's Bir Krishna Goswami, a good human being is not always a devotee, but a devotee is always a good human being. Sometimes it seems that we are missing this point, considering some of the behaviors among devotees. Yes, that's a big topic. Yeah, we might take it from, as a starting point, Prabhupada's quip. He said, first become conscious and then become Krishna conscious. And from another perspective, we may want to use the term dharma and understand that bhakti is working on the foundation of dharma. And therefore, when Sutta Goswami says, Savai pungsang paro dharma yato bhaktir at hokshade, ahaituki apratiyata yahyatma suprasidati, the highest dharma is free from motivation and uninterrupted, and completely satisfies the self. Well, how is that dharma, which is bhakti, going to be, how is it going to be unmotivated and uninterrupted unless it is well situated on the foundation of dharma? If it's not resting on the foundation of dharma, then what is it resting on? It will be resting on our own whims. And unless we are actually connected at all times with the super soul, where we can say, no, Krishna wants me to do this, even though it may seem like a dharma, then it can just be the whims of our minds. And that can be, rather than fostering bhakti, it can be destroying our bhakti. Now, someone will say, but in that case, why does Krishna say sarva dharman prityaja? Having given up all dharma, just surrender to me and I will protect you. Having given up all dharma means having understood the purport of dharma, having understood the purposes, the principles of dharma. The principle, the ultimate principle, is surrender to Krishna. But what does Krishna tell Arjuna to do in the Bhagavad Gita? He tells him to fight. And why should he fight? Because it's his dharma. He is a kshatriya. And he tells him in the end, if you decide not to fight, you're anyway going to follow your nature. So from the perspective of dharma and bhakti and their relationship, it makes sense, or it is right that we are respectful of sub-religious principles. You give example of honesty, moral behavior, faithfulness. We may say also Krishna is giving these in the Bhagavad Gita in terms of, especially in terms of the modes of nature, becoming fixed in the mode of goodness is very much about following such principles. Anudvega karang bhakyam. So for honesty, satyam priyahitam chayat. Rule on austerity of speech in the mode of goodness is described in chapters 17. And like that, there's austerities of the body, austerities of the mind. And that's another general point, is that to be Brahminical is to perform austerity. And it's the wealth of the Brahmins to follow austerities. It's what makes us rich. And so to observe what we're referring to as sub-religious principles is we may want to say this is morality, and this morality to perform is to follow austerities. And to follow austerities is to be wealthy. But this, so far, all of this is just on the side of what's good for me. But of course, what we want to think about as well is what is right in terms of interaction dealings with others. And for that, I mean, how old was I when I heard what I was told is the golden rule? The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And there's many versions of that rule in practically all cultures of the world. The Chinese have it. I think they reverse it. Don't do unto others what you don't want to have done unto you. And so on. And famously, the European German philosopher Immanuel Kant sort of elaborated on that and made it into his sort of foundational moral principle that one should consider oneself. What I should do, how do I determine how to act? I think, how would it be best for the whole world to act? And that's putting it a little crudely, but that's kind of what he was saying. Think, what would be the best for the whole world to act? I will act that way. How to implement them in our lives? Well, I guess one thing is to talk more about them. Being good is not a bad thing. Sometimes we think, we should be transcendental, therefore we should not be good. A good starting point could be also to read chapter 12, Bhagavad Gita, starting with, verse number, around number 12, from 12 to 20. All the different characteristics of a devotee that are pleasing to Krishna. And it turns out that all those qualities are fitting very well with, what we might call sub-religious principles. And another point is from Srila Prabhupada. He said a devotee is a perfect gentleman or a perfect lady. So those are a couple of thoughts. Further, Sita is writing, a practical example, I know several persons who are not devotees, but they're good human beings. For example, they would never cheat on their wife or husband, as happens sometimes in the devotee world, although this devotee may chant 16 rounds, etc., etc. If you can please help me on this. The thing is, our Lord Chaitanya's mercy is extending to everyone, and by his mercy, we're all here. And I think we also want to be very careful to not put ourselves into an attitude of holier than thou, sort of self-righteousness. I sometimes quote Oscar Wilde, every saint has a past and every scoundrel has a future. Every saint has a past. And I can say for myself, I'm not by any means a saint, but hopefully going in that direction. But I have a past. And I have to live with my past. So obviously, also we as a society of devotees, there is that tendency. We want to think we are the good guys and everyone else are the bad guys, when actually it's not at all like that. At the end of the day, in the final judgment, this is the Christian idea. There's going to be a final judgment. Who knows, maybe. You know, it's going to be God who does the judging, not us. And he may look at, you know, Krishna Kshetra Swami and say, oh no, oh my God. What are we going to do with this guy? So, yeah, we want to be very cautious about judgment, judging others. And at the same time, we should be very, self-critical in such a way that will help us in our devotional progress, not self-critical in a way which is going to destroy us in our spiritual progress. Let's see, we have, okay, there's so much. Chittakarani has a question from verse 106. You want to ask that, Chittakarani? Oops, maybe she's not there. Oh, here she comes. Are you there? No? I don't see. Oh.
Hare Krishna.
Ah, there you are.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Please accept my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
I would like to ask a very quick question. Here in text 106.
Yes, I just brought it up.
The heart of Lord Chaitanya is the image of Sri Radhika's emotions. Thus, feelings of pleasure and pain arise constantly therein. And here we always read that Lord Chaitanya is the embodiment of both Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. And so in his heart there are always his feelings. But he's always, he has madness to reach Krishna because they're always in separation. Because he's feeling the feelings of Srimati Radharani, and that's why actually he has the body as Lord Chaitanya. His aim is to have these feelings and also to teach us. But they are together, so isn't it? So they are together. Why he's feeling this separation? Because Krishna are together actually. Because as spirit souls, we have Krishna in our heart, and also we are there, but we are not Krishna. We are tiny spirit souls, so we can have this separation. But Krishna is with Srimati Radharani in one form. They can't be more united than that. So why they have this separation?
Yeah, well, one explanation could be, and the technical term is slipping my mind right now, but there are four kinds, four categories, four types of separation. that that the gopis feel. The first is purvarag, the anticipation of meeting Krishna. Then there's man, which is a mood of anger, which we mentioned before. And then the third is the one I want to refer to, but I'm not remembering the term. And that's the experience of feeling absence even when the Lord is present. And then there's a story about this that, how does that story go? I don't like to repeat stories unless I can repeat them properly, so I won't. But Radha and Krishna are together, and suddenly Radharani feels in her confusion that, yeah, it has to do with a play on the word madhu, because a bumblebee is disturbing Radharani, and Madhu Mangala manages to get rid of the bumblebee, and he says, Madhu is now gone. Radharani becomes anxious. Oh, my Madhu is gone, because that's also referring to Krishna. Krishna's right there, but she's feeling his absence. So, and of course, that can happen in real life as well. I mean, even husband and wife can be living together so many years and feel distant from each other. And that is a kind of sense of absence. But that's very different, obviously, from what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing. We're coming to the end of our time already.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Dira Lalita is asking if I know about Chaitanya Subodhini, written by devotees at Govardhan village. I think you mean Govardhan Eco Village. And yes, I'm familiar with this.
And we were celebrating this day together. And we came many times in the other days. Around this. Yeah.
That sounds like Malati Mala. Anyway, so yes, I can recommend. They also have study guides for Chaitanya Charitamrita. For Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam Subodhini, maybe it's called, that goes up through, so far, up through 7th or 8th canto. I guess they're working on others. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't know if they have all of it done yet. But yes, these are very nice for studying. They put things in nice systematic ways. Oh, thank you, Devashri Radhika. You've given us the terms Purvaraga, Mana, Pravasa, and Prema Vaichitya. Okay, Prema Vaichitya is the one. This confusion, sense of absence of the Lord. Prabhas is when there's actual absence, the Lord is elsewhere. And there's, what did we hear from Madhavananda? There's Dura Prabhas, which is when there's separation for a few hours during the day in Braj. And there's Ati Dura Prabhas when Krishna goes to Mathura. And then they're in anxiety that he may never return. And in that anxiety, they meet Krishna in Kurukshetra, but when they meet him, what's going on? There's elephants, horses, soldiers. He's a prince. He's never the king. It's a mistake to say that Krishna is the king of Dwarka. He's not the king because the Yadus have been cursed that they cannot be kings since King Yadu, I think. Anyway, there's all this opulence, all this Aishvarya, and they're feeling extremely out of place, the Brajvasis. And therefore they want to bring Krishna to Vrindavan. And that's what they do. And that's what happens in Puri, in Jagannath Puri. The Jagannath Ratha Yatra is bringing Krishna to Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Well, we've come to the end of our time. I didn't even get to our Shastra Advisory Council hermeneutics discussion this time. I think we made available this file, which gives an overview of the materials, the qualities, the principles, and the tools. So if you haven't seen that, you're welcome to download it and read through it. And maybe you have questions from that next week we can discuss. Yeah, I've been little thinking how to proceed with that because it's really a huge topic. One way would be to take up a specific problematic statement and then try to work through the process. But we'll see. So then I think we have to come to an end now. And I will say, oh, let me stop this. Stop share. There. Ah, there you all are. Yeah, again, thank you all so much for coming, joining on this Saturday afternoon or morning or evening. And we wish you a wonderful week. And we will see you again, Krishna willing, next week. I don't know, maybe we'll still be here. Quite possibly. Yeah, it's nice to be next to the ocean. It's nice. Okay. Thank you all. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol. His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaja ki jai. All brothers and sisters ki jai. Hare Krishna. Vaishnava. Miss you all.
Hi everyone.
Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Swami ki.